Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Rose, and we have a very special guest today. I'm super excited, Miss Kristy Mills. So I've wanted to catch up with her for a while, and I'm so excited she made time for us. You have a super busy schedule, mom, entrepreneur, model. I know you always have a bunch of things cooking. So I really wanted to have you on the show because you're such an empowering voice for women and I mean, everybody really. I think a lot of men probably enjoy her as well. She's gorgeous, obviously. But I love everything you've been doing, for the past couple of years with like your holistic approach to fitness and health and wellness. And so that's something that's super inspiring to me. And I know a lot of people are looking, for things like that, especially with all of the change for the better that's happening in the world. I think so many people are waking up and are just, demanding better
Yeah.
quality of life for themselves and more freedom. And you, to me, seem like the epitome of that. So thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us.
I'm so happy to be here. Now that our microphones are working perfectly this time, this is our time to shine.
Oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
and I think the biggest thing is like you too, girl. Like you set your mind to things through the years, just following you from afar, and you've just done it, and you've consistently just shown up for yourself. And now you have this going on, and you're singing your heart out in Florida, which I'm so jealous because we have been trying to move there for so long, but you're just doing it, and it's amazing to connect on this platform, and also just seeing you just transform yourself, like inner and outer, like doing your YouTube channel, like doing the things that so many of us really want to do and conquer and post, and you're just doing it too. So it's really, really cool. I think being too from like a small area, it's like
Yeah.
you kind of see the rat race of people just kind of doing the same things and there's nothing bad about that. But when you set your mind to things that you're actually out pursuing there's nothing better. And I'm sure you can tell you feel and you emulate just that happiness and positivity. So I think it's really, really special. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. My pleasure. Thank you. And it's funny too. So we're from the same area in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and so we actually met years and years ago. We used to work at the Fontana Beach together,
Yes.
the beach house. So like our roots
Oh
go
my
way back,
gosh.
but I feel like we were always just because I think you're a couple years younger than I am. So I
Yeah.
feel like we were always just kind of like sailing past each other, but
Yeah.
never really like connected,
Yeah.
which
Totally.
is so cool that like I really feel like it was the energy of the past 3-4 years
Yeah, for
that
sure.
I really saw you and I was like, wow, okay, like she aligns with everything I think and she's like vocalizing everything I'm feeling. And so many people were feeling the same thing.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so I was like, yes, absolutely. It's time for our paths to cross
Yeah, oh, I'm so
officially.
happy. I'm so happy to be here. We could probably talk for like 15 hours. I swear.
Girl, yeah, sometime like so for those of you who don't know us and you can't tell, this gorgeous woman is actually pregnant and
Yay!
about to have her second beautiful baby.
Thank you.
When do you do?
I'm due May 20th,
Oh
and
my God.
it's just wild. I don't know, where you are personally, like if you want to have a family or you don't. I always like wanted a family, but I was never, after high school, I wasn't like in a rush to jump into marriage, and
Yeah, I go back and forth with it. Like
it's a decision.
kids, no kids, I
It's
should have
insane.
kids. Like
I mean, you should pass on like your beauty and brains to another generation, especially in the generation we live in now. But
I feel like we need people like us need to have children. Like
we do. You have to procreate to
you have to.
instill and savor some of the morals and values that I think this country has been founded on. Not
Yeah.
to toot our own horn, like I'm not perfect. I have my absolutely have my flaws, but I think in general, like kids, and I'll tell you, like my 20s and 30s, like I like truly lived. I moved out to California. I was living in Florida. I was single. I dated a ton, and I probably am known in this area as like a serial dater back in the day, but I felt like I learned so much about myself through that process of like weeding out what I really wanted in life, what I didn't want, what I expected in relationships, what I didn't. And then in the meantime,
Right.
you're like, when you find the right person, it's like I feel like you have to, like every part of your life when you're doing things cool or you're trying to pursue dreams, you have to sacrifice. Like you're always sacrificing something to get to A to B. And I feel like
Right.
I'm in that season of like kids. And I don't mean that as like a bad thing. It's just like, I'm just in that season of like sacrificing the freedom of getting on a plane and just
Yeah.
traveling the world and being married and going on 8 date nights a week in a 7-day period because I
Yeah.
could, you know, and now it's like, okay, motherhood is crazy. It's like the best, it's the most beautiful thing you can do. And at the same time, it's like the hardest thing you do. I don't know how else to say
Yeah.
it. Like mentally, spiritually, it challenges your life with your partner. And, but it's, you know, it's a really special thing and I've embraced it for sure. It's just, I think with anything, it's like, it has its challenges that you have to, you know, continue on moving through, you know?
Yeah, just like anything else worth having in life,
Yeah.
everything that comes with, such a great prize is always, it requires some sort of sacrifice, like
Oh my gosh.
mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and motherhood
100%.
is all of those at once,
Yeah.
it seems like.
It is. But it
Everything you
also
have.
brings out like the best in you too. Like I feel like when I like with a lot of things going on in the world, when I got pregnant with Nash, I was like, okay, my body is important to me, my health is important to me. I've seen a lot of people close to me just lose themselves in the process, and I feel like we're
Mm,
like born to do this, right? Like women are
yeah,
born to have babies if you choose to do that. So I was
right.
like, I'm just going to grab the bull by the horns and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it the right way. And I had the most amazing first pregnancy at 35 and just jumped right back into things after. And it was like, but I put in the work, you know what it's like to like put in the
Yeah.
work. And then this pregnancy, it was like, okay, it was 2 years after I was, now 37. And I remember telling Skylar, I was like, can I do it again? Like, just doubting,
Yeah.
can I have the same experience? And I did, and I'm due in 4 weeks, and I feel better than ever. Like I'm like it's just the work you put in with anything, and it's like it's paid
Totally.
off in dividends. And I always was afraid later in life, like, oh, if I didn't have kids in my 20s, would it be awful? Would my body go to shit? Would my mind go to shit? Like it's a real
Right.
conversation that I feel like any woman will have with herself, right? And it's just been awesome. And I couldn't be happier that I waited later in life. I know, with where you're at in your life and your career, it's like, it's never too late. And I would definitely encourage people that have like lived their lives, like lived in their 20s and 30s to be like, it's just a different experience when you're older. Cause like you're kind of set in your ways, and it's like I don't know. I'm just glad I'm like an older mom, whatever they call
Well,
it, because
yeah, you have your shit together
yeah,
in a
and
different way, like
yeah,
a
and I'm
completely
with a
different.
really amazing guy, and I felt like if I would have just settled earlier on, I don't think I would have had the same experience because I feel like
Mm.
I really knew what I wanted at that point when I got married. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Oh
if
yeah.
you would have
Yeah.
asked me at 30, at 25, I would have been like, no, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing,
I
and I
don't
really feel
know.
like
Yeah.
you know what you're looking for and how you want your life to like sort of look. So it's been great. It's been really great.
Well, yeah, I mean, they say like, your 20s, like you're almost a different human being.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
like different human beings. Like who hasn't changed since they were 25 years old? I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't pay me to go back to my 20s, like
No.
even though they were so fun. It's just like you feel like almost like a toddler. You're just like running around like,
Yeah.
what is the world? What is life? Who am I? I don't know. Let's figure it out.
It's
Oh, and there's
wild.
tequila too. So this is great. It's
I
like,
know. Well, my
yeah.
bracelet says tequila too. I'm just reminding myself that I can have some
Soon,
soon.
soon,
Oh
soon.
my God.
Oh
Tequila
my
got me
gosh.
through my
Yeah.
20s and my 30s. Let's be real.
Whenever, yeah, when you're ready, you call me. Where our paths are going to cross. I'll come home and we are going to do it
Oh my
up.
God. Or
So
I will come to you.
in real life. Oh yeah.
I was telling Skylar, my husband, the one area that I have not kept up with, I feel like in motherhood is just that social aspect of like my life. Like I see my friends, but I'm such a routine person that my goal from the very beginning with kids was to like get them in a groove, get them in a routine, something they can thrive
Yeah.
on. And although we've done that to a T, I'm also like kind of a slave to that at this point where it's like now I went right into like another pregnancy. And so I'm definitely, my goal for the second baby is to like let the strings loose a little bit, and really just kind of get back to being who I am too. Cause it's like, that was the hardest thing for motherhood for me
Right.
is just that balance of like, I work, but I'm also with Nash all the time. Like I think I left him for like a day since he's been born, full day, like full overnight day.
Right.
So that's like the hardest thing for me, I think, just because, and you too, you have like a flexible schedule. You're your own boss. You're setting your schedule. So I think like finding that balance with kids when you're home, it's a blessing to be home because
For sure.
you're able to teach them and guide them. And I'll give you advice, like the first 2 to 3 years for a kid's life, like you being home with them is the most influential thing you can do.
Right.
Not sending them to daycare. We don't need to get into all that stuff, but if you can,
no, we're on the same page.
If you don't have to, you shouldn't want to do that. You should want to be there. And I think that that's the hardest, like, cutting off the drinks at 11, getting home, breastfeeding, doing the whole thing. You're like, holy shit, I have so much responsibility. You know what I mean? But
yeah, well, like again, the sacrifice and like what comes out of that though is you are, guiding the next generation. You are creating a human, and they're going to, sink or swim depending on their childhood. And like one of the things I always say, like I didn't make it up, but like, be a good parent so your children don't have to heal from having you as a parent. Like, and that's what another benefit that comes from being, I think, an older mother.
Working through your own stuff.
Yeah. First. And I just saw the other day some statistics that like, if you have a child over 40, women tend to live past 100. And I've always known I was going to live to 120. I say that all the time.
Oh my God, I love that.
I'll feel ripped off if I don't get at least 120. So I'm like, well, I still have time. And like, I know that I would be a good mother. I also have like a huge family and tons of siblings and stuff. And I was always like a nanny and stuff. So I never felt like, okay, this is a dire need for me. But at the same time, the last 4 years, I'm just like, I need to make a human and like contribute like this legacy and teach them morals and honor and values.
Well, I'm shocked hearing you being a nanny and having such a big family that it doesn't, because I come from a small family and I wasn't really a babysitter or anything growing up. And it was like, usually it's the flip, when you grow up that way, you're like, I'm going to have 5 kids and, and, it's wild, but it's the kind of experience that like, when you do it, you just feel like, it's just, I don't know, it's wild. It's the craziest experience of your life.
Fulfilling,
I'm sure.
with
Skylar and I'm like, if someone just cut me open right now, there's just a human like sitting in my stomach.
There's a human.
So
I made it. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's wild.
And I love too that you are so dedicated to your routine though during your pregnancy. And I know that that's something like all my girlfriends who have kids and watching my own mother struggle, having such a big family and like losing herself and like stopping her career. And
totally,
it was such a like an internal, like, drama push-pull between, like, she was such a devoted mother, but at the same time, like, it really did lose a lot of herself, and it was unfortunate. I think so many women go through that, and I've seen you really maintain that. And I actually was going to ask you about the friend thing though, and I'm glad you brought that up because you're a high performance person, and that's something that like when you're around other high performing people, I've noticed that like we tend to make time for each other in different ways. Like my thing has become like vacations. Like my kids who have my friends who have kids, like we'll go on cruises and their kids can go to daycare and we hang out that way. Or like it tends to become like a big long weekend, or you travel somewhere rather than like, we don't get together as often here and there, but like it's more quality when we do get together because they're also kicking ass and super busy as well. And like I think the more you really like embrace life and want to fulfill like that deepest sense of yourself and see what's possible, you don't have time to just have a casual like friendship. Like and you really realize like how many people waste their own time, and they also want to waste your time.
I couldn't agree.
I don't play these reindeer games.
I'm like being intentional about making memories too. Like if I want to go do something and make time for it, I want it to be like an intentional memory. I want to be like due diligent about. Sure, things might not play out the way they're supposed to. You know how you look. I always love to like look forward to things, like bigger things, exactly like a trip or something like that. And on the flip side, I think being high performance and just being really set in your ways with routine, I've also
Hmm.
lost a lot of friends. I've lost friends through politics. I've lost friends through beliefs and core values, and that's
Same,
life, you know. And people are like,
same.
"Oh, I can't." It's like I have, and that's just me being 100% transparent. I'm not going to waver who I am based off of, you know, not having common beliefs. Obviously, COVID was a huge stepping stone on,
Catalyst for that. Yeah.
you know, who's around
I'm like,
now and who's
good
not.
riddance.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
honestly, and for me, it was like I have like a motto. You're never gonna. I said yesterday in a story question, like you are never gonna be everyone's flavor of the day. You could be saving world
No.
hunger, and somebody's not gonna like you, whether they're miserable in themselves, which is normally what it is.
Yeah.
You can't go through life having a business and having a career and having a platform trying to people please everybody. It's
No.
never gonna be. So why even, you know, try to do those things? But
Oh,
going
yeah.
back to the habits, like for me, it's like it's a Bible to me. It's
Yeah.
like I really value aging well. I
Yeah.
value feeling my best. I value good sleep. I value the things that as women especially, we're in such a niche of like aging is kind of hard for us. You know, we go through having our youth and having our 20s be this like amazing thing, and then we age different than men. And I
Oh, yeah.
value us working together to teach each other how to just be consistent every single day. And I just, it's taken me years to do, but I will tell you it's the best decision that I've ever made, because I don't think twice about being active or taking a walk or lifting or taking care of myself or giving a shit about myself. And
Right.
didn't matter if I had 2 kids, 1 kid, 0 kids, I was never going to waver on the fact that I have felt so grateful for aging, the aging process, you know, being
Yeah.
wiser. And like I said, getting good sleep, learning how to cook for a family, like doing things that I know a lot of us women innately like really want to do that just give up, especially after having a family. They just give up. And I tell a lot of my friends, like, before you go through that process of conceiving and even starting that, you need to be so dead set in a routine that works for you that like you're willing to like cut off your right arm, you know, to make that
Yeah.
stop. And it's hard, and it's not like something you just do. And I start with micro habits. Like just start with the small things.
Yes.
1%.
Yeah.
Do 1%. You're not going to do everything the first year even, you know, and it's just, oh my gosh, if women could just tackle into that, they would be so much happier in life. They
Oh
really
my
would.
gosh.
They really would.
Yeah. And
It's
it's,
yeah,
I mean, like I love the micro habit thing, like 1%. I mean, I think about like, you know, where I was 20 years ago. That's
yeah.
really like, I just started doing lemon water every morning. That was the only like
It's
routine I
amazing.
really
Don't you do
had
your
food with.
bulletproof coffee too, or you do?
I do. I love the bulletproof.
Yeah,
I'm reorganizing my whole like food life right now.
sure,
So I realized I love to work out. But my body wasn't really changing the way that I wanted it to. And
sure.
I always thought I was eating like fine because I was eating clean and organic and stuff.
Yeah,
I got this app to track my food. I
yeah.
thought I was fine. The other day, it turns out I had 900 calories. I was like, what? I felt like I was eating so much food. And turns out I'm like nowhere near where I wanted to be.
Wow.
So as you know, like if you don't measure things, they don't
Sure.
change.
I get it. I
So
totally
you,
get it.
you got to measure stuff. So I'm going through that right now. Like, I get all my meat delivered and everything from I use Butcher Box because they're like
Amazing.
American.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I'm learning about like, holy shit, I didn't know that I thought I was like on top
yeah,
of that. Turns out I wasn't measuring
yeah.
it, but that's another reason why you need to like constantly be checking in
A
with your
hundred
goals and
percent.
habits and routines. Cause like sometimes we think we're doing okay. We're like, oh,
Oh
that's
yeah.
probably fine. And then you check it and you're like, oh, Jesus.
No, I totally agree with that. And for me, you know, I tell ladies like find something like I said, the diet that works for you that you can stick with forever. You know, it shouldn't be something you can
Right.
do for 3 months. You can do it till you're from 30 to 70, 70 to 100. You're able to stick to something that really works for you. And the second part of it is, you know, you got the working out down, and it's building lean muscle. It's lifting weights. It's being intentional about movement. And it's not a hard recipe, but I understand, and I've worked with thousands of people at this point through my
Okay.
career, and it's really just your own self in your way, you know, not believing enough or wanting it enough, really. I think it's really wanting it enough too, but if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know how bad you want it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, so
Oh,
your sleep
yeah.
is shitty, your energy sucks, you don't have any stamina through the day, you crash every day. It's like you don't know what feeling good is because you
Right.
probably haven't had it. So it's like I understand why people are like, well, I don't know what I want because I didn't even know that was possible, you know? So that's where like those micro
Girl.
habits really I think play a role because they kind of set the tone for like, okay, you know, maybe I slept an hour more, or it was, you know, sleep was uninterrupted, or maybe I drank a little bit more water and, you know, was more fluid through the day. There's so many things. And I just, you know, being online too, it's hard because it's like you see all this shit that you're like, do I need to be doing this? Do I need to take this? Do I
Yeah.
need to da, 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 da? And that's the hardest thing with women that come to me. It's like they just are overload on information, which is good and bad. We have so much amazing knowledge at our fingertips now, but it's also like you can crash and
Overload.
burn. Yeah, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
shit, where do I start? I just started this great thing and now this next shiny coin comes up and I'm like, okay, I need that, you know, and it's hard. It's confusing
It
for
feels so
people.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it does.
I think a lot of people are just like, well, I mean, I felt that way for so long. I'm like, I started with my spiritual element like
Yeah,
20 years ago, really getting that in order, like
yeah,
getting that house. And then now I feel like the last element I'm putting together is my physical well-being
totally.
and really like dialing it in. And, you know, because I've been lifting weights, like now I just want to like cut and see like what is under
Yeah,
there actually, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Um, but I was like the person who struggled with my weight my whole life. I had a ton of bad programming when I
Sure.
was younger. You know, it was always like in my family, like, Adrian, a moment past the lips, a lifetime on the hips. And so I just like, I mean, for
Ugh,
years, I don't think I ate. I think I lived on like
yeah,
black coffee and cigarettes for who knows how
yeah,
long
yeah,
when I was, yeah, in my young 20s. So,
of course.
breaking those old habits, you know, and relearning. And it's also like huge self-worth issues, self-esteem. Always had
Absolutely.
like, so I feel like so many women feel so frustrated that that's why they give
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Cause they're
Oh, without
like,
a doubt. I
yeah,
think
like,
you starting the other way was probably more important for you. And just having that mental strength is before anything else, in my opinion. I think the
oh yeah,
mental strength and also having just like a guidance that's greater than yourself. You know, if you're just trying
yeah.
to be your own advocate, it's never going to work because the bad
Oh
days
no.
are going to deter anybody from continuing on with doing the small things every day. So I think that's huge.
Everyone should get a coach and a mentor for everything.
100%.
All the most
100%.
successful people in the world have coaches.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a figure skater, you get a coach. If you want,
Right.
like, I just started taking vocal lessons again with my old coach from like 5 years
Oh
ago.
my
I mean,
gosh.
just she's just helping me work on a song that was like challenging for me, but still, like, everyone has a coach. Like, I have a financial mentor. Like, everyone needs coaches.
Absolutely.
So like, get a coach.
Yeah, of
Everybody get a coach.
something. Just someone to rely on. And
Support.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom too, my mom and I are best friends, and my mom struggled with her weight her whole life and just finally did this whole program 5 years ago, lost 100 pounds, and has honestly kept it off, which I watched her go up and
Yay.
down her whole life, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, you really have to just make that switch, and whatever that is, whether it's a spiritual switch that leads you to the physical. But at some point, I think what women forget is that they do have to tackle both. You have to tackle the
Oh
food,
yeah.
you got to tackle your spiritual, you got to tackle your relationships, and also having a good partner or a good marriage or good
Mm.
friends or
Stability.
something. Like you
Yeah.
can't just do it alone. And I feel that a lot of it is just a lot of negative self talk. And it's a love hate with Instagram too, right? It's like I can look on Instagram now, being in the modeling sphere and shit my whole life. Like I see it for what it is. It took me
Yeah.
years to get to that point though. But I can see where, you know, impressionable young girls that have just been raised on Instagram. Lucky for us, we had a break from our phones growing up. You know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have anxiety just thinking about my two kids with what it's going to be like in 10 years. You know,
Oh
what the
my
hell am I
gosh.
going to do? I'm going to be the mean mom. Am I going to be the cool mom? I'm going to be a
Yeah.
psycho. Okay.
I'm a cool mom. Not like a regular mom.
You
I'm a cool
know,
mom.
but it's like
Yeah.
nowadays I had to step back and be like, okay, I understand why the world is going where it's going because you and I, at least, like I said, we had that break in high school.
Right. Yeah.
There wasn't,
I I
you know,
didn't have a cell phone like that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
you
had the
still
old
had to call
Nokia
and
brick.
ask your mom if like you were home and you could take a phone call or something, you know,
Yeah.
it's
It was like
crazy.
I miss that where like
Oh,
it
me
was so
too.
fun going out to I'm so glad I was 21 and like people still didn't have like texting really. They didn't have
Same.
smartphones because
Same.
you had to go out and see who was out.
Yeah.
So it was so fun. Like we're going here, we're going there. Oh my gosh, I don't know if the guy
Yeah.
I like is going to be there though, It's
Yeah. I love
now
that. It also taught us like how to read a room. Like for me, I will say one of my like six spidey senses is like just energy in a room. I
mm,
know you know this without even
yep,
having to tell you this, but
yep.
it's like the moment I meet somebody in a crowd, I just have this innate. I just feel it. I feel whatever. And my husband for a long time was like, "You're crazy." Whatever. And then like 7 years of being together, he's like, wow, like I need you to
Oh
meet
yeah.
somebody just to kind of, and I don't mean it as like a bad
To
thing. It's
feel
not.
them out. No.
And it's, I feel like because we were raised in probably around strong women or, just more in tune with ourselves, I worry about that, especially with women that are growing up in this day and age, that they don't have like the tenacity to like learn how to do that, right? Like especially women. I know we're women, so we're talking in regards to that, but I think there's just something really special about that, and I feel like technology takes away that interpersonal intercommunication, just
Yeah.
reading that
That
energy because they're not
that
glued to a
depth.
screen.
Oh yeah, like it's definitely the emotional element that emotional quotient, the
Yeah.
EQ is underdeveloped for certain. Like
Yes.
the Gen Z, I call them the entitlement generation.
Yeah.
They're little assholes.
Yeah. It's wild.
Not all of them, but like I
Yeah.
mean, especially down in South Florida, like it
Oh,
is disturbing. So all the girls down here, like young 18-year-old hostesses at every restaurant, they all have full face of Botox and lips and boob jobs and
like that's
you're 18 years
insane.
old. You're 18. You were perfect already. Like,
I know, it's
Botox
scary.
is supposed to be like maintenance. Like that
Yeah.
you were perfect. You were just a little duckling. Why did you
I
don't have to do
know.
that?
And you
I
think
felt
about
so
like
bad for
10
them.
years from now, like what's going to be the next, because that's going to get old to them. They've already had a taste of like this perfection mindset. It's like this is where the extremes, it's not, do you remember like old 90s models too? Just like how beautiful.
I love 90s models.
I'm like, what happened?
I know.
Where are we?
I am always you have 90s supermodel hair and I've always loved that. Like I when I it's not straight hair season anymore for me here. I have two seasons. It's when I can straighten it and then it's just curly hair. But
Hot.
so when I straighten it, I'm just like, no more 90s supermodel Cindy Crawford. That was the
Yeah.
best.
I
Yeah.
it's just it's
It was honest and they were like you could
yeah.
see their faces and
Yeah.
they were beautiful.
Well, and that's what I worry about too. It's like, okay, so these young girls, like their parents, I mean, and I've seen parents just openly be like, they just let them, I don't know. Is it the parenting thing? And that's where it's like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery I think about often. I worry a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
I know the only thing you can control is yourself and your family, but at the same time, I'm just like,
I know.
wow, I'm
It's hard. And it's hard too. I get, the freedom and the meaning behind your podcast. And I think it's, the freedom to do whatever you want. But on the flip side, I feel like how we feel about freedom, like we're not living in freedom on certain levels, just because we are so divided and so controlled. And I worry about the future. I really do. I said, I don't want to put all my faith into politics and stuff, and I try not to. I try to
right.
just be like, okay, like the world is going to shift some way. The universe has our back. We're gonna.
Absolutely.
It's just noise. And then I do have days where I'm like, okay, well, if these things don't change, like, how long am I going to put up with it? Like, am I going to be old and gray before there's a shift? Or,
Oh yeah.
and where are we going to move? My mom's like, where are we going to go? I'm like, you're right. you
Well,
know?
I've been wanting to create a retreat center for a long time, and that's like my long-term goal. But I've been looking
Oh my
at
God, I would love that.
Costa Rica and El
Yeah.
Salvador. El Salvador, like their government is badass.
Really?
Like it's like freedom, like for the people. Like, yeah, their leaders are like straight G. They get it. Like,
Wow.
so
I
I've
need to
been
look into
looking at
that.
properties there and super affordable too.
Yeah.
But also, I used to be a lot more concerned with politics and like I recently have become a state national. So that changed everything for me.
Sure.
So I learned about like, how Washington, D.C. is actually a corporation. It's a for-profit corporation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once they did that, technically, they stopped being a government. So really what we're doing, it would be the same thing us voting for president as it is like if we went and voted for McDonald's CEO.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
so once you uncontract with them, then you really have nothing to do with that. Like, they
Yeah.
don't have jurisdiction over you. So that's like my path. I'm like, okay, cause like freedom, that's really the way out, is like
Yeah,
to
it
not
is.
have any contracts with them at all.
It
Like,
is.
okay, commit whatever fuckery you want, but
Right.
out
Right.
of it.
And it's
Yeah.
like crazy, like the people, the taxes we pay in this country and how hard we work and the life we choose to lead, and just the lack of respect for people that actually want to be here and want to live good lives. I was so politic driven, like during COVID. I was, and honestly, I have PTSD from COVID. When I see masks
Yeah.
or I think
Yeah.
about that time in history, I will, and I tell people on my Instagram, I will never shut up about it because I still can't believe that it got that far. I still can't believe the control and the craziness of like the world at that point. I'm never gonna forget about it, and I'm never over it. I still sweat when I talk about it, and I just get
Yeah.
like, I can't believe the level of control. And that's what I mean about people just having a voice. And like, I know there's a lot of people under the surface that probably felt like we did, where we're just like, what are we not seeing, But like so many people, just the lack of speaking, the lack of standing up for families, the lack of saying, fuck no, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. The lack of not looking into the information on the mRNA and like what people are putting in their body. Like, I'm never going to be over it. Like, I'm never going to be over it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like anything else, any like trauma that people have, like war trauma, you don't get over something like that.
No.
You can move on with your life, but you'll
Yeah.
never forget.
Yeah.
And I realized so before that, a few years before that, I moved to Madison for a little bit.
Oh, you did?
And yeah, and I realized, I thought I was like gonna go be with like my people, like, oh, artists, and it's gonna be so
Sure.
diverse, and I'm gonna be
Sure.
like surrounded by open-minded people. It was the opposite. I
Yeah.
moved into the hornet's nest, the hive mind of like closed-minded, angry, mean people.
Wow.
The meanest
Wow.
people I had ever met in my whole life, like treated me like shit. Like, I had never been so judged, like snap judgments about my
No
character.
way.
Girls like us don't do well in Madison. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no.
Like,
And I went to college there, and when people ask me
oh,
where I went to school, I'm like, yeah, back in like '09. Like, I didn't go there recently, and I wouldn't.
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so bad. I would go into a bar and like, looking like this, and they would just be like, like,
Oh
eyeliner, look at her white hair, that bitch. Like, girls shaved heads, braided
my
armpit hair. Like, and I
gosh.
was just like, oh my God, these are the meanest people ever. And it made so much sense. So there were always certain people that I just never got along with. And I'm a really easygoing person.
Yeah.
If you're respectful, like,
100%.
I meet
100.
everyone with mutual respect. Hey,
Yeah.
man, cool. You're into clown orgies? Cool. I don't give a shit as long as you're decent and don't hurt anybody. Go live
100%.
your life. But I would like register, like, okay, this person was very strange. I got a very like unsettling feeling from them, very hostile. And then during COVID, I realized, I was like, oh, that's who they are. Those
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
I always were just like, why are you so like that?
Yeah.
And then I realized they exposed themselves during COVID. So I was so grateful for that. I was like,
Yeah.
cool. Now we can get somewhere. Like,
Well, maybe you never would have got to that place either. Like, and
yeah,
I say that with like not vaccinating. Like, we didn't vaccinate Nash, and I went down like the largest rabbit hole about vaccines. Now, I'm not going to say I was like a pro-vaccine person. I wasn't anti either. I just sort of was like, I would
yeah,
maybe do a slow plan. I understand
open-minded. Yeah,
immunity, but I understand like the immune system well enough to understand that 76 doses of a vaccine into a perfectly healthy baby isn't help. But I wasn't on the like deep train down. And when we were in our
right.
homes, I literally watched like this 14-hour series that I bought with Skylar about like injured vax children. And then I started reading books, and I started going down. I mean, I went down every rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So far down past hell that I was like, oh my God.
Seven circle of hell type shit. Yeah.
In this home, in this time, I probably wouldn't have delved as far as I did. And it was the best thing that I ever did, because then, I had a baby, and I just started standing for the things that I knew deep in my core that I always probably stood for, that I maybe wouldn't have been as vocal about. And it was the
Right.
best thing, honestly, that was the best thing that came out of COVID for me. I was just like, wow,
Oh,
I will never not be grateful for that. And it was like, and I'm shocked more people like haven't gone down those rabbit holes because they're so readily available now that it's like, why are you not looking into this stuff? Why are we not looking into why there's so much cancer in the world?
they just
And kids are
bury their
being,
heads in the sand,
yeah, kids
just, I
have
mean, dig
chronic
a hole,
asthma.
bury my head in the
Yeah.
sand.
It's like when I grew up, nobody had these things. Autism
Right.
wasn't a big thing. Kids weren't dying from every allergy and asthma and and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to ever, wear that badge. But what I will say is like, you can look at the trends and just look at the data and look at the studies that are just readily available to you that a lot of doctors are not learning in med school because they're just learning the basics of how to be a
Right.
medical doctor. Why are we not? And why are we being censored online about it? What, you know what I mean? It's like, that should be the number one question to people. And forget if you want to vote right or left. Why
Right.
are the people that are opposing what the government is saying being silenced on every platform? Right straight there. If somebody could answer that to me without saying, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, that would be an actual argument. And that, what you said about being like respectful, I just want to have a constructive conversation with people. And
You can't.
you
You
can't.
can't.
And
Because
because you
there's too
can't,
much ego. Yeah, you
yeah,
can't.
it's like, okay, so that's fine. But why is it so one way? We are not a communist country. Like, this is not put your head down, go to school, you know. It bothers me that like that is like the number one argument is like how I lead a conversation and nobody can answer it ever. It's like, okay, well then I guess we're just gonna, so there has to be a shift. I don't know what that shift is. Do you feel like, you being in the space that you're in and also living in Florida, do you feel there is like an awakening on some level where you're at?
All over the planet, I feel like there's a massive awakening.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what the purpose of COVID was.
Yeah.
I do believe that, like, I went way, way deep, like also
Same.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And like,
Same.
I mean, I've always been like an insanely rebellious creature, like
Sure.
from birth, like it
Yeah.
was, like double birds to everybody, my parents, the school system. I will not stand for this. I was always the person that was like raising my hand in class and they were like, Adrian, yes, you can leave. And I'd be like, fine. I just want you to know that I disagree wholeheartedly with everything you're teaching. I oppose. And I would like it noted. And so I feel like, and then I was the medical system, and then I watched the medical system like slow kill my mom. From when I was like 14, they got like small town doctor in Walworth got her on OxyContin. She had back surgeries, and
I remember you posted. I remember. Okay, yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
and I remember I was like 14, and I was like, she does not need these back surgeries. Like she had like lost herself as a mother, lost her career, like just slowly slipped away. Like I think a lot of moms do.
Yeah.
Depression. The only thing that was
100%.
wrong with her was like a lack of purpose. That's it. I truly believe my mom was brilliant, beautiful. So I watched the doctors like cut her up, surgery after surgery, OxyContin for 3 times her body weight for 25 years, 3 times her body weight.
And at that point, it's like, what can you do as a family? Like, she's so.
Oh, it ruined us.
Yeah.
We were all ruined. Yeah. And so my siblings are all like still, everyone's messed up about it. And then, she slowly died, and like it was all preventable. And so I watched the medical industry do that. And so when COVID came, I was like, oh, hell no.
Oh God.
Like,
come
at me, bro. Like,
oh my
so
gosh.
I was like already prepared to like for full blown resistance mode, like at that point. And so I think what COVID did, like, I do believe that, the like white hat military guys, along with Trump and everything in the background, I do believe that they already have everything that they need in place. I think that
so.
they need like mass awakening and mass disclosure. And look how many people did wake up.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. You are 100% right about that. And even if, like, I tell people that if you can just wake up to one area, whether it's the medical side, the pharma side, I've traveled and listened to people that don't even think the border has been open. And it's like, okay, so we're on like different planets.
We're on different wavelengths.
But if somebody could just wake up to one aspect that would change, how they vote or how they see the world or how they advocate for themselves and their families. I mean, I tell people like, why are you voting? I mean, okay, so money makes the world go round. Like, it has been proven, study after study, money doesn't make you happy. I understand that. It's a
Right.
means to make you happy. Is it going to create all happiness? No. But
No.
people vote based off of how they feel on social issues, and social issues aren't paying your bills. Social issues aren't creating education for your families. They're doing nothing. They are doing shit. So it's like, why are we voting on social issues? And I just, like, if somebody could just open up to like a big medical pharma or something that is like, or the taxes they're paying and where that money, something. It's like, I struggle with that a lot because I'm not a economics person. I'm not a money, like no, I shouldn't say that. I'm not a smart mathematical person. I don't use that side of my brain like my husband does. But I'm smart enough to know the basics.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
what is
didn't
going on? And people and pharma
basic economics.
are
Yeah.
making money at making people ill. They're making the country sick. Like your mother is a great example, who should never have been in that situation, not one time in her life.
Right.
And it's same thing with having a baby. It's like, for me, people are like, oh, my doctor told me if I don't do this, I'll die, or my baby will die. No, that won't happen. It's just like, but it's like, this is what going back to our very first 10 minutes of our conversation, is like having that confidence and that
Right.
willpower to just stand up for yourself and say, okay, if you, midwife or doctor that's going to be delivering my baby in 40 weeks, don't want to listen to me or agree to what I'm asking and pleading for, then you move on. You find someone else. And
Exactly.
it's just, people will not be that advocate for themselves. And it's like, it starts with that self-confidence. It starts with
Right.
that, like, that just oomph to be like,
That
oh,
willingness to
yes,
stand up for what you believe in. Yeah. No, I know. I'm
drives me
constantly
nuts.
perturbed by that. I think like,
Yeah,
and you don't have to demolish people, but you just have to
totally.
be willing to.
Right.
Like, and I think that the
Yeah.
people who do have it, like you and I, like people can tell there's an essence of like,
Yeah.
don't cross here
Yeah.
and we'll be fine. But people who I think tend to like, especially more like artistic minded people. And I think that's why the left is the way they are, because
Mm-hmm.
they vote with their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and the people, in power positions use these emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They gaslight and manipulate them because they're
Totally.
so impressionable. And I also think like they have a lot of trauma. They're very broken people
Sure.
statistically,
Yeah.
and very sensitive. So they think that they're standing up for, a downtrodden group of people who are
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get by, which is obviously not what's happening. We know that,
Sure.
but they're very impressionable, and I feel so bad for them. They're so deeply manipulated.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you remember Greg Goglin?
Yes.
Oh my God. So this is just one example of so many
I haven't
liberal
heard
friends
his
that I
name
have.
in years. Where is
Yeah.
he?
He went nuts. He like texted me and a bunch of other women, and I don't mind blasting his name because he's such an asshole. But this is like one example. I'm sure you've had friends like this too, maybe not to
Yeah.
this degree, but like one example of one of my friends who I have like been there for, taken care of, literally gotten many, many, many jobs, let them live at my house, given them
Wow.
money, flown across the
Wow.
country when they were sad. He texted me and a bunch of other women like calling me everything but white. Like, you are stupid.
Oh
Everything
my
I
God.
can't believe what your idiocy, your descent into idiocy. And like so many people that I knew that were left
Oh
minded
my
were like,
gosh.
went nuts on me. I had people messaging me telling me I deserve to be shot in the head. Like, I'm a grandma killer. Like, I don't know how bad it went for you, but I was like, wow, this is so crazy. I can't imagine going my entire life.
Yeah.
I would never speak to someone the way that you've
Never.
spoken to me. Yeah.
Ever.
And all I'm saying is like, guys, this sounds fishy. Like, does
Yeah.
anyone else think this sounds
What,
fishy?
where, but it's like, why? I'm just, that's what shocks me the most, though, is like, okay, so you see everything play out even now, and they still can't just be like, okay, that was weird. It happened so
No.
fast, and it was so, I'm just appalled. I am. And I know that I try to look at things from different points of view. I do, because, we all have different privileges. We do. We all have different points of view,
Oh
privileges,
yeah.
opportunities. But it's like, to just not be able to look back and be like, okay, something was just off. Something didn't add up.
I think they're just like dishonest with themselves. They're people who
Yeah,
delude themselves. And then now
sure.
there's so much ego attached to it, so
I know. I
they
know.
can't come around. But I still think like there's something called the Schumann resonance,
Okay.
and it's the frequency of the whole planet. Like you can Google it day by day,
Sure.
and it will show you like the frequency of our planet is like outrageously high, higher than it's ever been before, which
I
means
think I have heard that. I just didn't know that's what it was called.
everyone, yeah, everyone is like uplifting their vibration, better food, better water,
Sure.
more happiness, more joy, more sunlight. Like, look how
Yeah.
many influencers
Oh,
of wellness there are who are coming out and saying like
yes.
that we didn't have that before. So
Yeah.
like that's great. They're spreading information, you know, like people are buying chickens. Like, yes, get the chickens, eat the
Absolutely.
eggs,
Spending
like
the more money on the better meats
have
and
the babies outside, playing outside, homeschool your
oh my
children.
god.
Like,
Well, oh my gosh. If I could write down one thing, like we went to Florida. We go to Florida for winter because I want to have Nash outside. I
yeah,
don't want him in the house here.
right.
I just, it's that important to me. And that was a big reason moving to a state where, we can do the things all year round. Like I love the Midwest for what it is.
Oh, yeah.
We've been here longer because I do have my parents here and I do have, it's, I need someone. So I need that moral
Yeah.
support. Skylar travels a lot.
Help.
But I also know the importance of just grounding and just being outside. I mean, Nash gets up and I put him outside in his bare feet in the grass every morning that I can when we're here because it's like until you have kids too, where you put the proof in the pudding. I know what it does for me every day.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like when you see kids flourish, and then also on the flip side, when they don't have that energy
Oh,
outside
yeah.
in the sunlight, how hell your day can be with a toddler. You're like, I don't need anyone to tell me it works.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
what I
Yep.
mean? But
I just read something that was like put your child in water or take them for a walk instantly if they're having a temper tantrum. If
yeah,
they're having a meltdown, put them outside.
it makes a world of difference. And I will tell you another thing too is like the food and just being able to, I know what the food does for me. I know what it's done for me as far as like cooking and being very due diligent. I'm not perfect, but due diligent about what I'm eating. And with Nash, it's like 6 months. There was nothing processed. I mean, we cooked for him. He eats eggs every
Yeah.
morning. And I just,
I,
it,
they don't come out asking for chicken strips and ranch. They
no,
don't.
they don't.
You,
And it's
they
always,
only crave what you give
and
them,
it's
you know?
such a hard topic. So this is like, and this is, I'll tell you, like, I don't know if you like have struggled with this in other areas of your life, but like, I have always had an opinion on things just based off of like my knowledge and like digging into things. And
Yeah.
I was like, but I'm never going to put my 2 cents into things until I go through it. Like, motherhood was one of them. Pregnancy was
Oh,
one of
yeah.
them. I always knew what I knew and felt, but I was like,
Right.
I'm never going to fucking step
But you
on those
can't say
toes
it
until I go
because,
through it
yeah.
and walk the walk and do
Yeah.
this shit. And now I'm like, I'm on a completely different,
All
time
right.
zone. But I still try to be in a group setting where it's like I'm not trying to toot my own horn every single
Right.
day if I haven't actually done it. You know what I mean? Or if I'm like not going through it. Now I'm like, I can say whatever I want.
I did it. Me. I did it.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, like I struggle with that as well for people that I know in my family, and I just see like
oh, I
clearly.
know.
But I hate to be that person, and
Same.
it's hard. And like I personally have not had children, but I've raised so many, and
Yeah,
then like taking care of like my parents too, and I've
100%.
I've always been like the one in my family that's like kind of was the black sheep, but then became like, sort of the one everyone goes to now. I like to
Yeah,
call it the psychedelic sheep, but
I love it.
um
Well, it's crazy too to see you because you are an artist. Like you have been in that like kind of cool hip space, like doing your own thing where, when you started posting like your YouTube stuff and like the topics and,
mhm.
just covering like pleasure and I was like, oh my God, I totally resonate. Like you just, you don't, it's like you too have come full circle with like finding that groove in that niche of like singing and being kind of this free spirit, but also being like such a heavy hitter in topics that a lot of people would never want to talk about. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. So even just hearing you about going to Madison too and having that experience, I'm like, I never would have thought anybody would have ever treated you that way.
Oh
Just
my gosh.
ever. Like, it's
Horrible.
just crazy to like talk to you and hear that because it's like, that's not, I would have felt that would have been a place you would have just jived with no matter what season it was, just, that's crazy.
Yeah, they
That's
were awful.
crazy.
When I like growing up in the 90s, I was still young, but like in the 90s, it was like the left or the rebels, the artists were the ones rebelling against the establishment. Like
Absolutely.
never in my wildest dreams, like I was a little metalhead my whole life. Like I was a rebellious, like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine, like fuck you, I
Yeah.
won't do what you tell me. Now Rage Against the Machine is an advocate for Pfizer. What happened
I
to
know.
the metalheads and the punk rockers who
Oh
were
my God.
anti-government? Now they're all like
Yeah.
bowed down to the government. And I'm like,
Well,
they call me a conservative. And I'm like, how on earth did I
yeah.
become a conservative?
How did that shift happen? But then you realize, okay, so maybe it's not so much Hollywood, but like the level of, and when I met my husband, he's from California. He's like total conservative, grew up Northern Cal, but he
Yeah.
used to tell me like early on, he's like, dude, people sell their souls to Hollywood. Like that whole thing, the whole
Oh,
thing. And I agree. I haven't been like a big Disney, like Hollywood person. I mean, I like movies and I love the arts and stuff, but I've never been like obsessed with it like a lot
right.
of people are today. But just the level of control that these people in power have to obey to. And you've seen it come out in Nickelodeon and Disney. And
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's such a
It's
sick, sad.
evil.
Yeah. I mean, you don't just become a Taylor Swift because you don't, that just doesn't happen to people.
Right.
There's levels that they have to compromise. And
Oh, yeah.
we didn't know this shit. We didn't know this shit when
No.
we'd see, oh my God, like with Bush and like Courtney Love and all these like weird conspiracy things that people wouldn't even think anything of. And then you're like, well, kind of, P. Diddy, all this shit and
Mm.
the R&B and all this control. And it's wild and it's
Oh, yeah.
dark. And it's like, okay, I'll stay in Wisconsin and have a chicken and, just
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's just, there's so many deep tunnels that, in our lifetime we'll probably retouch the surface of, but you wouldn't have prior to all this bullshit in the world.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a stranglehold on us in every capacity, and I think that time is over. Like it's
Yeah, like the
party's over.
cookie's crumbling for sure.
Party's
I
over,
do believe that.
motherfuckers. Yep. And when you go like, even looking at our financial system, like they say,
Yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with it's an acronym NACERA and JESERA. It's like
yeah,
the National Economic Restoration
yes,
Act, Securities Restoration Act, and Global Restoration Act. So it's like basically getting all the money that they've been stealing, funneling from people for so
sure.
long. Like, I mean, that like crazy shit. Like they sell our birth certificates. Like we're traded on the stock market like a commodity. Like
Ugh.
you can go on to like Fidelity and type in your social security number. Like so who's taking that money? Where does that
Yeah,
go?
yeah.
And then when you look at like Washington D.C. and like the Vatican and London, like
Oh
they're
God,
these three completely like separate entities that are their own
yes.
self-governing enclosure.
My
And
husband has been
then
saying this for so long, and
yeah,
I didn't really start to, not that I didn't believe it, I just like, it's like you also should share life with somebody that can like open your mind up to things because it's a
oh
real
yeah,
thing. And just you knowing this stuff, like obviously you've delved into exactly where I am. And I know you said like the shift in frequency. How do you find like the peace on the weekly basis? Like I went from like no peace politically to like, okay, I'm gonna have a little faith in my spiritual life, and started really breathing, meditating, just doing the things I knew I needed to do as just a human, just to function in what
yeah.
was going on. But how do you find like the peace like weekly? Like what do you get back to with like all the shit that going on, all the shit that we haven't even talked about? Like where do you find that like hope weekly for you? Like what does that look like?
I know that God wins
Yeah,
no matter
100%.
what. So, um, like how monks just always smile all the time. Like
Yeah,
they know the evil in the world too, but they also
sure.
know that God wins. And also like we are responsible for our own frequency. So the best thing you can do or everyone can do is
Sure.
to keep our vibration super high
Yeah.
and bring in the joy and the love, and like that heals the planet. Like you smiling today at how many people you smiled at, who
Yeah.
knows that they just saw your smile and then they smiled too.
Yeah.
Who knows what they were going through before, but you just changed the world
Yeah.
just by smiling.
I used to think
How
that
beautiful
even
is that?
I used to think that even before, like, just people like, oh, you're just the preconceived notions of people, right? And then
Hmm.
just every time I leave the house, I'd be like, and genuinely, not even trying to be like put on or, I need to prove to the world that I'm
Yeah.
this way. I always just was like, I'm just always going to be nice and generous. And
Yeah.
I grew up in a generous house and I married a very generous husband, and just being generous with time and how you treat people and act around people. And it was like, I always just was like, if somebody could just walk away and just be like, maybe I just didn't know who the fuck that person was ever. And you just go off of like small town or whatever. It's like and when you pile that on through time, wherever you are, whether it's small town or you move, it makes such a world of difference. And living out in California when I was in Orange County, I was like, the number one thing I would get from people is like, wow, the Midwest must be a different place because the way I treated people, didn't care.
It is.
And it does follow you at every place you go. And I just hope for young people to learn that it's like, you're right. That frequency, that vibration, those small, tiny, minute things make a world of difference long-term. And you don't see it until you practice it like for years and years.
100%. Yeah. It's something I like actively, I don't anymore because it's unconscious now that I just smile all the time.
Yes.
But I never used to. Like, there's no pictures of me smiling as a child. I never smiled. And then I have this friend who lives in Malibu, actually, and she is very wise and much smarter than me. And she's actually a channeler. Like, she like talks to angels and
wow,
God, if you believe that kind of thing exists.
Absolutely.
But she's the one who always tells me, she's like, well, she told me a long time ago when I first started playing music, she's like, you need to smile, you scare people. I was like, me? Really? I'm just in my brain thinking about like, wormholes or something. she was like, people want to come talk to you and you scare them. I'm like, oh my God, shit. Okay. So I just started like smiling all the time and it totally works. And now like when I walk into my shows and stuff, like I meet the coolest, nicest people that we have like profound conversations. Sometimes it's just, chit chat, but like
absolutely.
That I would never have gotten to know these people if I didn't let them know, like, hey, I'm approachable. Like I'm not like going to snarl at you or claw you. Like, and you know that because I'm smiling and you can feel my energy means it. Like,
absolutely.
I want to love you. Get in here. Let me
like
give
you're consciously
a Wisconsin hug.
Agreed. And sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody like that. And I do. I go to a spiritualist too. And it's funny, every time I talk to her, like she talks above me because she's like talking to my spirit. And it's the most wild, God, that'd be a totally conversation for another day, but wild experiences with this woman. And
part two.
Yeah, part two. And wild. And it was funny because she'd just be like, your spirit, like, and how, the yin and yang. And sometimes hearing it from somebody like that, it's like, okay, it's real. Like, it's just wild.
Oh, hell yeah.
Had the best experiences with, I call her like my spiritual reader, and I don't take advantage of her. I probably talk to her like once a year. But
same, mine's once a year too.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful experience, and I'm like, God, I feel like if I could just channel in even deeper with like my energy, I couldn't do what they do, but I would be able to do like 1%.
Well, they say we're all supposed to, that's a lot of like
I have read that.
Like a lot of, there's been so much spiritual surgery performed on the Bible, but a lot of what Christ said was that like, I'm a healer, but so are you. Like I can do these miracles, but so can you. And like, part of the unfortunate thing about a lot of organized religion is that they cut you off from having those experiences, those spiritual profound experiences, like those sacred texts are so like bastardized and misinterpreted that people go every week hoping to have that special, bond with God, and they miss it because they think they need a middleman to get there, but it's in 100%. Here.
100%. Oh my gosh, I was talking about church the other day, and it's like I have I'll tell you, like I have a really hard time with like the kind of surface level conversations. Listen, I don't need everybody on the street to know my deepest, darkest shit, but I also want to have something that's a little bit more meaningful. And I feel like with church, like love it. I found like a great church here, but just the small talk shit. It's like, I don't need to do that to like prove.
I don't play those games.
Yeah. No. I hate that. I don't. So that's why like, I feel like people either love or hate you online too. It's like, listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. Like when I'm having a good day, it's great. When it's not, I'm going to share why and what I do to try to make it better. And, but that's
like you said, it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves though.
And that's hard. It's just like institutions though. I mean, we there's a way certain things have to work. It's a business at the same time. Churches, so the spiritual thing to me, just like what you said earlier, is like diving into just your daily practices, like what you're working on in your own mind, when you wake up out of bed, like where is your head going? How are you pulling yourself out of bad conversations that you have. And when something isn't going right, how are you dealing and emulating in those feelings? And it takes years of practice. Like, it's not just like, oh, I go to church and
Oh
I
yeah.
hear and then I go home. That's not what the spiritual life is. And I think a lot of people misconstrue that when they feel that they're on that path, but they're only leading that through like a church or a women's group, or, you know, it's like what you do again, the micro habits. We're going back to
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
10 minutes of the
See, we
conversation.
just bring it
Yeah.
around, bring it around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's the danger of like really externalizing God from
Yeah.
yourself and seeing it
Yes.
as it's so separate and far away, is like, you know, like God's we're sparks of divine, you know, so like operating every single day as if like you were a piece of God or you were God's representative. And I'm not churchy either. Like,
Yeah.
I like churches, I do go sometimes. I like the beauty of mass prayer.
Absolutely.
It's gorgeous to me. I have the
Yeah.
most beautiful church across the street from my house. Actually, Tim Tebow was just here, who I like love. He's
Oh
such
my
a
God, that's
hero
awesome.
of like for men. But
$100%.
we go and listen to the choir. Like, there's a big 55-person choir, but like, you know, when you put God outside of yourself, like you can get away with like some crappy behavior, maybe.
Yeah.
Like maybe you can
Yes.
do some shady things and you don't see that as like, well, I'm a spark of that too.
Right.
So anything I do to myself is going to be really doing to God and everyone else. And that
Yeah. And
illusion of separate.
just your flow too. It's like, I always go back to spiritual as like a flow. Like, I know when I'm in the flow, I know when I'm
Oh
out of the
yeah.
flow.
Oh yeah.
And that law of attraction and that law of energy is such a real thing in my life, that like when I'm off,
100%.
and it's a good and bad. It's like when I'm off, my husband says to me, he's like, when you're off, like everybody within a 20-mile radius is just fucking off. Like, you know, when you're on, you're on. And it's like,
Yeah.
I've had to really, even just being a mom too, like really understanding that, like, it's not because I'm any more special than the person next to me. I'm just that in tune with like,
Oh yeah.
that flow of energy in my home, in my family, my friends. And when you can really hone in on that, your life changes in ways that, like, just shit will happen. Shit just continues to happen, even during the bad. Like, it'll just continue to flow. And I know when I'm not in that flow state. But I think the difference now is like, I can get out of the flow state. I can get back in and out of it a lot quicker than I used to when I was younger, where I was like, why does shit just continue to fucking suck? And then,
Yeah.
you know, you don't
Yeah.
learn how to just change the energy. And I know it's so Fruit Loop to some people, but it's like, it's a real thing. It's so
It
real,
100% is.
you know?
I like, I mean, I know we're just going to keep talking about COVID, but like during
Yeah.
COVID, I moved down here. Like, I drove to Florida in the middle of the night. I had never been here before. And like the craziest things happened to me. I like can't even, I look back and just like at one point was just like maniacally laughing like a crazy person. Just like,
my God.
what else? Like crazy shit. Like, I got hit by a car, broke my spine. Like, my mom died. All this fucking crazy. The world shut down. All the hotel I was playing for didn't pay me. Like, the craziest stuff happened. But like at the same time, it was the best time of my life.
Wow.
I had so much fun. I met the most beautiful people. Like, I cannot tell you, it was still one of the best times of my life. Like,
Wow. And
that's just like,
did you abruptly leave a relationship here?
I did. Yeah. I had a really super, super toxic relationship
And then
with
just
like,
left. Like,
yeah,
after that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I was
how I
just like,
interpreted that, just watching from afar.
yeah, it was exactly that. Yeah. I was in a relationship with like a person who was living a double life.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know who they were at all. They had a complete secret, double separate life.
Yeah. And then you just got up and left shortly after.
And this is like a real quick side note on that. This is an example of why you don't get into relationships when you are not in your flow, as you said.
100%.
So I had just
Yes.
found out some crazy stuff like about my mom's health. And then one of my family members was in like, nobody told me because they knew it would hit me so hard, but
Sure.
they were going through like the darkest throes of heroin addiction.
Oh,
And I didn't know, no one told me. So I was really thrown off. And then this person came into my life and I was just like, sure, I could use some like cheering up and that's what it led to. So do not make decisions when you are not in your flow.
I know that.
Well,
I just read something too. It's like, okay, so we're so good at like writing lists of like, or mental notes about like what we want in a partner. And then we don't ever take into account like where we're lacking, so that, you know, when you do come together, that person isn't going to have everything. And if you're definitely not even close to that, you're just going to match shit with shit, or shit that's not handled. And I tell my best friend that, I'm like, he has this list of like his dream girl, and I'm like, okay, well, this is where you lag. So you're either going to come up and like meet that and then go out and
Yeah.
find somebody, or you're just going to continue to date the wrong people. And it's like, I don't understand what people don't get about it. But I think a lot of people are so used to being in like unhealthy relationships as well. That's a
Yeah.
whole other topic.
Oh, yeah.
That is like a stem of like a lot of trauma and shit. But it's like, I tell people like the biggest decision you make is going to be who you are spending your life with, growing your life with,
Girl.
bringing a kid
Amen.
into the world with, sharing conversations. I said to Skylar, like, it's not an easy thing, because as your life gets more busy with children and things, and it's like, I understand why things don't work out with people, because it's a choice.
Right.
You get to a point where the honeymoon phase is over and like you're choosing to be with somebody and you are choosing to grow. And if you aren't growing with somebody, like, people are not, I don't understand how it lasts even after a certain amount of time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's so true. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So, like,
yeah.
you have to be, I tell people that all the time. I tell myself that. I really, like, shored my life up immediately right after that experience.
Sure.
That was like a temporary lapse in judgment, but not who I am.
We've all
But
been there, by the way, like,
yeah,
deep. I've been there more times than I can count.
you
So
look back and you're like, what the,
I know,
like,
I know.
who made that choice? Not me.
But see,
I
if I
didn't do that.
wasn't growing or avidly like trying to grow as a person, though, I probably wouldn't have gotten out of those situations. Though, you ever
Yeah.
think about that too? It's like easy to stay.
Yeah.
So it's like almost a good thing that you can look back and say, hey, like, yeah, that wasn't a great time for me, but it's also, you're not there anymore because
Yeah.
you've grown past it. And you not only grew past it, like, you got in the car and moved your whole life across the
Yeah.
country.
I was like, bye. Yeah, we're
Not a
done.
lot of people can do that, especially from like a small town. Like, a lot of people don't have the balls to do that, or the confidence to just be like, okay, like, I'm going to start a new path. And
Yeah.
so I think it's awesome. I
Well,
personally
thank
do.
you.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, you just I'm always kind of like just focusing on becoming like the best version of myself, and like I'm not afraid
Yeah,
to make radical change either. And I think
same.
like especially with the dating thing, where we're from, there's really only like 4 people to choose from. So
Yeah,
like
it's hard.
sometimes
Yeah.
like I would advise everybody, like I know you've left, but like leave your small town.
Oh, I say
And
that all the time.
not just, it doesn't have to be forever. Like I
Yeah,
want to buy a condo in Lake Geneva just so I can come back and forth.
100%.
But and it's a beautiful place to raise kids and to
Sure.
grow up. But like leave your small town, not because where you live is unbearable, but because
Yeah.
most of who we are like unconscious manifestations of what people think we should be.
Yeah.
Like when you're growing up, it's like your parents' expectations, who your friends tell you you're going to
Yeah.
be.
You're confined
And
to the walls that like
yeah,
you're so
you
used
have
to. Yes.
you have friends of circumstance, and you don't even know, like, are these people truly my friend?
I
Do they
was
really have my
just
best
going
interest?
to say that about like the friends thing. Like, totally, I tell people to embrace when your friends change. Not because it's like you need
Yeah.
to shed because you're too cool for school and you're just better. But it's like, if you have the same friends from high school, I mean, I get it. Some people do. I don't. But like, there's nothing wrong with shedding things as you're going through your own process. Like, if you're not growing, I mean, if you're not growing, I don't, the friends are going to change. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just think friends change in life. My friends group has changed based off of all the areas I've been. I've had a couple good friends, but I don't know. People get so bent out of shape about, well, we're not, they don't talk to me anymore. And it's like, I mean, I get it, but I think of it as like a dating thing too. It's like a
Oh yeah.
relationship that it's not just transactional, but I think people come and go in your life at certain times
For a
certain
reason.
reasons. And I think
Yeah.
people have a really hard time with like the ego getting over the fact that like, okay, somebody from this genre of my life doesn't talk to me anymore. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Or when you change and then you get that, well, who does she think she is? Or
Yeah,
you get like success or money, and then like
sure.
there's jealousy, like
Yeah.
and like I'm sure they don't want to be, or they're not conscious of it, but like it's just like that sometimes people don't let you change. I mean,
Yeah.
so I had a lovely relationship that's been over for almost a decade now, but I was with
Wow.
someone for like 9 years who's a lovely man. I'm going to his wedding this fall. Like, we're still friends, and still
Oh.
to this day, still when I go home to Wisconsin, people are like, I still can't believe you. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and honestly, we're so night and day different too. You can't even
Yes.
imagine the
Okay,
two of us together
I know
now.
this relationship. Okay, I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why is that weird? I don't understand. I don't get why that's weird to people. Like why that
Yeah.
is so strange to me.
They
It's
still talk about how they can't imagine. I was home for a wedding like a year ago or so, and people were coming up to me drunk, like, Adrian, I still just can't believe that. And I'm like, really? We're so different. Like, we're
so much
that
time has passed. I think
that
it's
was like decades ago. I'm such a like we're
oh my
light years
gosh.
away from that.
But
But
it's
like
kind of
in
like that small town mentality though. It's like, okay, you've been with someone so long and it didn't work and they just can't fit. I don't understand that either. I always wanted like my ex's new relationships to be great with me because it's like I think if you personally, I think it says a lot more about somebody if you can break up with someone after that long and have mad respect for each other in a friendship than
yes.
just like this toxic, like, fuck her, fuck him, like, just get over, like,
Oh,
why,
it's so lowbrow. Yeah, grow
yeah,
up.
it's like so
Unless they
stupid.
did something horrible,
Right.
like I have
Agreed.
exes that I don't like. I will set you on fire with my eyeballs if you come near me.
Agreed.
Don't get near me. But like, no, if it's loving and like, yeah, you have mutual respect, then you should.
Totally. I used
Yeah,
to ask people in California, how did your last like two strong relationships end and where are you at? And I think they used to think like I'd ask that to be like, are there strings attached? But I just want to know that like you have like decency to just be like, you know what? I met this great
yeah,
girl who I loved very much and we had a great couple years and we ABC, this is where
yeah,
we're at. I have
yeah,
way more respect for somebody than that, than
hundred
just like
percent.
this bitter shitness because deep down that bitter shitness comes from like lingering shit or feelings and garbage,
Oh,
then
I'm always like, what'd you do?
yeah, exactly. And I'll
What'd
always
you
say like,
do?
do you take something outside of like a cup of coffee in the morning to function? That was like living in Orange County. I would literally have no problem asking people like, what is your
Oh
supplement?
yeah.
Like, what do you take daily? Are you on da 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 da? And can you function without it? Like yeah, it's just the world we
I
live in.
never knew that everyone was on behavioral meds. Like, when did that happen?
I was just gonna
I,
say, like, like Adderall and shit. I'm like, do you take this? Do you take Ritalin? Are you on? Like, do you need this to function? It's like
I've been
insane.
so like like you said, being sensitive to energy. I've been around people and I'm just like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
And then my
the
friends were like,
shift.
oh, they're on like Adderall, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you take that if it makes you act like that?
Yeah,
Like it
it's
may,
like
and
black and white day difference. It's so funny. We were
it's
just
like,
talking about this the other
hi,
night.
I just wake up and sprinkle meth on my Cheerios and I just start my day. Like, what's up? What do you do?
Skylar
What are you
and I
into?
were just, I shit you not, 2 nights ago sitting on the couch. He goes, it's like one step away from meth. Like, you might
No,
as well just
legit.
do the meth. And
Honestly, like,
it's crazy to me. And it's like so well accepted. That's another thing going back to the kids and being outside. It's like little boys, especially having a boy. I've always wanted to be a boy mom. Just the level of like overprescription, that whole thing with pharma and little kids pisses
mm-mm.
me off more than anything is they need to be outside. And I struggle too. Like, I don't want to be a homeschool mom. Like, I don't. I know we're getting way off topic, but like, I enjoyed school. I think school is important for kids to go get their feelings hurt, learn how to be independent outside of my
Yes.
home. But
Yes.
I also like know the importance of like them getting the fucking energy and exercise and fresh air, and little boys especially, they need it.
Oh yeah.
They are just
They need to
insane.
go outside and hit stuff with sticks and
Yeah.
just totally go nuts
And
and
it's like,
expend all that energy.
oh,
Yeah.
that's my whole other thing. I'm just so like worked up about school already, and I'm just like, we'll find it. God's going to give us something, whether
It
it's
will
month,
happen.
it's
Yep.
coming. And I don't want to be a stay-at-home. I don't want to do that shit. I don't want to like get up every day, put on my apron, and fucking teach my kid. I don't. That's not what I
No.
want. I'll be a
I'm
great
gonna
role model.
I'm gonna be a nanny mom.
Yeah.
I'm just no, and people like talk shit to me. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna have a nanny help me change the shitty diapers so I can come and teach them the wisdom I know.
Yes,
I'm not gonna be one of
100%.
those moms if I have kids with my hair on fire, a baby on one tit, and I'm rocking the cradle with a foot, and like I'm not doing that. Like
I'm totally
I
in
want to
agreement with you.
I want to give them the best of me. I want them to see me
Yes.
happy and mom
Yes.
healthy and like not
Yep. And
strung out.
we're going into that new season with like I breastfed for a year and now I'm jumping back into this. And that's a whole other thing. It's like, your dedication to like 40 weeks being pregnant, and then the year after of this, and it's a long process. That's why people are like, "You're not
Yes.
gonna have another." I'm like, "No, we're good. Two's good. That's 4 years out of
No,
my life that
yeah.
like is 24 fucking 7." Okay. But yeah, we're gonna hire someone, and I know that I'm gonna have to, like I said, give the reins up a little bit more with
Yeah.
having another baby, because you just it's 24/7.
Well, like, okay, I say this all the time, but like, we're supposed to be tribal creatures. Like, we're supposed to have an
Yeah.
awesome community of other women and
Hmm.
men who are like helping, guiding the kids. The men are role
Yeah.
models. All the women
Yeah.
come together and like, you grow the tomatoes and like,
Yes.
whatever, like, cut everyone's hair. I don't know what it is. But
Right.
like, we all like are together and we're just so separate and it's unfortunate, but like,
I know.
you need help.
And you know what's crazy is, like, a lot of moms that I've talked to just on social media, like, they do have like compounds where people are starting this stuff, where they're
Yeah.
doing like the school in these little communities. And I'm like, I
Minus the
never,
culty and orgy stuff, I'm in.
I
Yeah.
know. And I'm kind
Because
of
it can get
there.
weird fast. Yeah.
I'm there. But it's like, I never thought that at 37, having 2 children, I would
Yeah.
be in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin,
Commune
thinking
mom.
about
Yeah.
fucking coming up with this idea, right? Like, it's
Yo,
nuts.
you guys got prairie cults out here or what?
Like, we're there. Like, I
Yeah.
know. And it's, oh my God, it's just insane that I'm even, oh God. But you know what? I'd embrace it. I would. I think it would be great for me too, socially, because I'd probably
Yeah. Like
more.
I'm all about it. That's like my long-term goal, like 5 to 10 year plan is
Yeah.
just to have like a retreat, like a
I would
high-end
love
resort.
that. I would
But
love
like,
that. I would love chickens. I would love
yeah,
just the camaraderie. And I think that's partially like why I'm still in the Midwest, because I do feel like we have a little bit more opportunity to like do those things.
good
But I'd
people.
go anywhere. I will. I honestly go anywhere at this point. So wherever you go,
Yeah.
you just let me know.
Yeah, come on down. I'll save you a spot. Yeah, it's gonna be like you know, forest jungle chic kind of
I
thing.
love it.
So
I
like
am.
oceanside, like Costa Rican chic
That'd
kind
be
of
amazing.
like
Are you in Fort
luxury.
Lauderdale? Is that where you
I
live?
I am in Fort Lauderdale.
That
Yep.
is where, like, Skylar and I, like, if we didn't have kids early enough, I think him and I would have moved to like Miami. Like, we do love Miami. I wouldn't want to raise a family in Miami, like Fort Lauderdale, but I do love, like, I love that area. Are you loving it? Like, do you love it?
So believe it or not, I live in the Lake Geneva-est town of Florida. So
Okay.
I live in like a small town, small suburb of Fort Lauderdale, and it is a tiny beach town. Like I can like see the
That's
ocean.
where I want to be.
Yeah, it's quiet. Everyone is like so cool. You can walk
Oh,
around. It's little Lake Geneva. I kid you not,
that's what I
with palm
want.
trees. There's like live music playing everywhere.
That's what I
And
want. I need that.
yeah,
I know how badly I need that. I need a little bit more than LG, but I also, like, I need a little bit more culture. I think it's just finding that happy medium of like a little bit
it's
more
like Lake
culture.
Geneva with yachts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Which
Yeah.
is doable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Cause like, being from Lake Geneva and like Chicago, like I thought
Yeah.
I knew what wealth was. Like I did not know
No,
what
I
wealth
know.
was.
I know that.
I had never seen like this. Like,
Felt the same way when I was in Orange County. I was like,
yeah,
okay, this isn't, yeah.
we are not in Kansas anymore. It
No.
makes Lake Geneva look like a ghetto.
No, I know. It's wild. Now, what brought you to that small town? Like, what got you there?
So I knew I wanted to move here, and I lived with I moved with an aunt initially, but she kind of like had a mental breakdown during COVID and just
Okay.
kind of like went crazy. So I was
Sure.
like, okay, I'm gonna go. So I moved to Airbnbs. I did like a month at a time because I'd never been here before.
Yeah.
So just in all the surrounding towns, like near Miami, and like this was the
Ugh.
one that I found was the best. Like Fort Lauderdale has the most beautiful, pristine beach. It's like miles and miles and miles long.
Yep.
There's actually a beautiful, I love historical homes, and there's a beautiful historic house here. And the owners also owned a house in Lake Geneva. Like, how random is that? Yeah, it's called the Bonnet House. So I toured that like last month,
Oh
and
my God.
so random. Yeah, so they own a big chunk of the beachfront here, and then the small like subdivision I live in is like small beach. Like we have a private beach. It's
Amazing.
chill as fuck.
Amazing.
Like everyone's so cool and so nice. And but then outside of Florida, like Miami or outside of Fort Lauderdale,
Sure.
in Miami, everyone's like on bath salts and will stab you with box cutters.
I
It's the
know. No, I've
craziest
done
place in the
that.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
shouldn't say like, I wouldn't actually physically like, live in Miami, but we
Yeah.
do love Southern Florida. We've always like, that's where we like go. That's what we love, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just, had we have not had kids when we did, I think we would have been there yesterday. It's just like with the kids and my parents, like having a set of
Yeah.
parents and grandparents like present is, God, it's so amazing. But it's also like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
and we used to travel a lot. So it was like being here as a base was great because home was home. But like now that I'm home with kids, I'm like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
it's just trying to find that like medium ground. But I will say, like, I've been
Totally.
under a complete like control phase the last year, and everything I've tried to control like hasn't worked out. So I literally got into 2024 and I was like, I'm done fucking trying to control this. Like wherever I
Let's
am,
let it go.
I'm letting it go because it's
Yeah.
not, that isn't working. And that's also me just recognizing that like every single thing I've tried to fucking do isn't working when it comes to moving and like relocating with Skylar and work and our family. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever happens, if I'm here, I'm here. If I'm not, I'm not. All I know is if I am staying here, I want chickens and I want to start, you know, I'm going to buy a cow. I just talked to Skylar about buying a cow and
Yes.
having meat, getting a huge like
Yes.
freezer because this is where we're at, honey. You
Do
know.
it. Get
So
the
if you wanna-
chickens. I love it.
yeah, you will have steaks for you when you come. So are you coming home at all, like this summer?
I come home all the time, actually.
You do?
I'm home pretty much like every 3 months. Yeah.
Great.
So my best friend lives in Williams Bay, so I always stay at his house, and he's got a big house and family and stuff. We
Amazing.
always stay with him. Yeah.
That'd
So
be awesome.
yeah, I'm home quite a bit. For certain, I'll be home in September for my ex best friend's wedding.
Amazing.
and I'll probably come home before that too, because I love like Lake Geneva boat life in the summer. And
Yeah, and you can still work here, right? When you're home, like you're working.
I could, but I'm kind of like moving out of like small gigs. Like I've kind of moved beyond that. And so now I pretty much just do like private parties. I still have like
Got it.
a few places that I play just because I like love it and it's stress free.
Of course.
But I'm moving it into like ticketed concerts. So it's
Love
not
it.
just like, yeah. So
well,
I can
yeah,
expand.
and then when you're home too, like you can actually like be home,
Relax.
too, and enjoy it, like for what it is. I think that that's probably like gets old too, like when you're home and you're just not home.
It's too.
Yeah.
I tried it, like playing there, and it's just too much. It's too stressful. I don't get to enjoy people. Yeah. So as much as I miss that, I can just drink tequila and enjoy them just as much.
Well,
so
when you're home, I'll be able to drink tequila.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 4 weeks left. So
And
I can't wait.
Gracie. Yeah, is
Gracie.
that's the final name?
We're having a girl, little Gracie girl. And
I saw that.
Skylar was like, well, he just feels with that name, like she has a really good chance of just being like sweet in the world we live in. Cause I mean, what, have you ever met a bitchy Gracie? Like I haven't.
No.
A mean, like I'm hoping that just sets her like first couple days off as like Gracie. Like you can't.
Yeah. Well, and like biblical times, like names were prophetic. So whatever they would name, like Abraham means father, like whatever they would name their kids was how they turned out.
Yeah.
And like what have you ever looked up your name? Like what?
God, years ago. You know what? It's funny. I did more of my natal chart. Like I got really into my natal chart, like the the craziness of that freaked me out. Cause when I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, it's wild.
Accurate.
It is wild. So yeah, and I'll tell you, like he or she at the time, we didn't know. She's due on May 20th, but she's right on the cusp of Taurus and Gemini. And so I've dated all Geminis in my life, like before I married Skylar, just all Gemini.
What's Skylar's sign?
Skylar's a Virgo. So it works great. And I was like, if it's a boy, it can't be a Gemini. It's like he has to be a Taurus. Although I admire Geminis for like the work ethic and the tenacity. There's just a level of like not emotionally available, and too workaholic, too fucking like picky, too the spinning. But I do have a Leo boy, and he's still very like. He is loving and sweet, but I know he wants to be recognized for all the nice things he's going to do in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He's a Leo.
Leos.
So she's going to be either a Gemini or a Taurus. So we'll see. And I don't know. I'd be fine with a Gemini woman, but just the little boy thing, I was like, he has to be a Taurus.
Oh, yeah. No, let's get it going here.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I'm super happy for you. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much every
We
spectrum
have.
that's
We
that we
did.
wanted to hit. I'm sure we could go more,
Oh my
but
God,
yeah,
forever.
we'll save it for round 2. And next
I
time
would
we
love
do
that.
this, maybe we'll have tequila with us and
Yeah,
you'll,
that would be amazing. And
be able to hang.
I'm going to hold you to it because I'm so glad we did this. Like it's crazy too, like how comfortable I am. I feel like you and I talk honestly every week, and like I knew it was going to be that way, but I
Yeah,
just feel like I literally just could call you at any time and we could pick this up. And
you
I think that
can.
that's so
Absolutely.
special. So thank you.
Funny too, you were saying how, so for those watching, so we were supposed to do this a week ago,
Yeah.
right? And so everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and we were saying that before.
Yeah.
So I had another girl scheduled for tonight,
Oh my
and
God.
she was is I didn't know this. I didn't know who she was when I met her. I thought she was just a musician. She came to me at one of my shows, introduced herself, and we just got to talking about music. And I was like, oh my gosh, you should come on the show and promote your music. And
Yeah.
then I found out she was a reality TV star too. And so I watched some of her clips and I was like, oh my God, this girl's like a total nightmare. Like she was like mean. She was like the
Oh
mean girl. And then I saw on her like page, her Instagram, that someone was like, "Oh, what happened to your OnlyFans page?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I this is like
no.
not where I want to go with this." And then so
Yeah.
we were supposed to like, I don't know, I think it was like Friday or something. I reached out and everything, and she just like could read my stuff and never responded. And I
Ghosted.
was, yeah, ghosted me. And I was just like, it's so weird because like hookers are usually have so much integrity. I'm so shocked that she didn't have the honor to keep her appointment with me. But then it worked out because I was like, oh my God, perfectly. Like
Oh my
Kristy and I were
gosh.
supposed to have this talk.
Dude,
It was
that's
supposed to
amazing.
happen
That gives
tonight.
me chills, like goosebumps. Like the flow. Like the energy of the
Yeah.
flow is like such a, and it always comes back in my, like those stories. Weird
Thank you,
little,
Jesus.
it's crazy. It's like so wild. So
Like what's meant for you will always find you.
I
And what's
know.
not will be taken away
I
from you. I
know, I know.
truly
And
believe that.
we've had like a pretty tough like 2024 start, like just our family unit. Like we've had a lot of like unfortunate, shitty, just shit that just hasn't gone right. But I will say, like at the end of the day, when I put my head down, I'm like, what you just said, what isn't for you isn't meant to be for you. And like moving was a big part of it. We've had a lot of weird shit, and I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
open to accept. And I think I've been blocked from like opening the universe to like allowing that to happen because I was so like control mode. So like that's just another thing. Just goes to show. So
Well, and Gracie coming into your life too, maybe
yeah,
that'll be the one to like
I
help
think
you let
so.
go with grace.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Let
Yeah. And
go.
we got pregnant pretty quickly after Nash, which wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't not the plan, but I just like, I had just got done breastfeeding. I just got done with all the shit, and
You
then
just got your body back to
and now I
yourself.
am like,
Like
okay, I'm going back
have
into
to
this season. And
give it
it,
away again.
but also I'm like, you know what? This is what's supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's like I had an amazing experience, great pregnancy, can't bitch about anything. And I'm grateful. I'm always
Yeah.
grateful every single day. And I'm grateful that you asked me to be on this. So thank you times a million. And when you're home, please let me know and we'll get together and I will not be pregnant and you can meet the babies and we can have a good old time. So
I love it. I love babies. So yeah, that's
I
awesome.
love
I'm
it.
excited. This was perfect. And it went exactly how I thought it was going to
Same,
go.
me too.
So
And
yeah, I
10
couldn't
times
have
even
asked for
better.
better.
Yeah, I couldn't
Yeah.
agree. So let me
Okay.
know, keep me in the loop with your schedule and tell your audience thank you so much for joining us tonight as well. And till next time.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, honey.
Cheers, girl.
Bye,
Thank you
babe.
so much.
Have a nice week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
You too.